This is the Behind the Line podcast, coming to you from the wacky left coast capital of Seattle. News from the Pacific Northwest, the left coast, the U.S., and the world that matters. The stories the MSM won't talk about, deciphering the truth through all the lies. For more, visit BehindTheLinePodcast.com.
So I was going through some news sites the other day and came across a story about the military charging a guy who's getting out for equipment he left in Afghanistan. Almost $4,000 worth. He said when they left, they were told to leave the equipment behind because they were limited on space. You know, the way the United States decided to bail with its tail between its legs. And that they would sort it out when they got home. So their version of sorting it out is to apparently charge this poor guy nearly $4,000 as he's getting out of the military, as he's between jobs. A guy with a wife and 2 little kids at Christmas time. Merry Christmas from Uncle Sam. You know, that sociopathic, narcissistic uncle of yours. Apparently this is something that goes on quite often. I guess I could see if it's something negligent. But if he was told by his superiors to leave the equipment, then what is the malfunction here? Why is the Army incapable of keeping proper records, handling proper communication? It's absolutely crazy to me the Army would have the balls to charge individual soldiers for leaving gear behind in Afghanistan. The U.S. government, via its military branches, left $7 billion worth of equipment behind there. $7 billion. That's your taxpayer money, folks, all of which the Taliban has access to. Aircraft, UAVs, vehicles, munitions, including precision missiles, guns, and communications equipment, some of which, no doubt, found its way to Hamas and they used when they invaded Israel on October 7th. Maybe the U.S. taxpayers should send the military a bill, or Congress, or Joe Biden himself. Seriously, what a bunch of idiots. Their response to all this was, it was only a sliver of that the U.S. owned and operated in Afghanistan. So it's okay to waste $7 billion of hardware, taxpayer money, because it's only a so-called sliver of what we got. This is the people in charge, folks. What kind of moronic statement is that? Could you imagine a private business operating this way, explaining this to its board of directors? How do you suppose that would go? No business could absorb a $7 billion loss, but we see this day in and day out with the government. Wildly huge deficits, running over budget for everything, printing whatever funds they need out of thin air. All the while, we as taxpayers and private business owners are held to this double standard. Pay up or go to jail. Pay up or lose everything you own. So, in some government official's mind, it's okay to charge some private nearly $4,000 for some bags and clothes and whatever else he left behind at the behest of his superiors before boarding a military flight. That's nearly 2 months of his salary. It seems like some kind of weird power trip to me. Does this seem absolutely moronic to you? Who knows how many soldiers they're pulling this little routine on? The sad thing is, nothing will be done about this. No one that matters, quote unquote, cares. These soldiers they are doing this to are just plain screwed. They're barely paid anything as it is, and now you're going to strip the meager pay they get. The Army wonders why enlistment is down. Seriously? Why would you join the military when you're going to be treated like this? When you're just going to be punished because leadership is inept, can't keep records, can't communicate, and does what the rest of our government does. Pass the buck. These young men and women who have served deserve to be compensated the little amount the government forks out to them and not have their pay docked with no recourse. They shouldn't pay the price for an incredibly irresponsible, wasteful government that will just do as it pleases without any accountability whatsoever. Soldiers are used and abused constantly across the board, and this is just another shining example of the absolute lack of management ability our present military has. I guess they're more worried about shots, pronouns, and equality. Maybe if the Secretary of the Army had actually served in the military, things would be run better. There would be some life experience at play, some first-hand knowledge of what it's like to be on the ground. But like most government leaders, the people in charge haven't actually done the job. How could people in positions like this possibly run this organization, the Army, without having served in the Army? If you want to understand why so many things are mismanaged, specifically in our military, then look no further than the people in charge. That's a top-down problem. Situations like this really make me angry. The government has no business treating its soldiers like this. I hate it when good people are just bent over a barrel with seemingly no one willing to help them and nothing they can do to stop it. This is something people should reach out to their representatives about. This shouldn't be allowed to happen. Someone should have to answer for this and put a stop to it.
Thank you for listening to the Behind the Line podcast. If you like this broadcast, please like and share it. Please follow us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, Truth Social, Telegram, Gab, Parler, and LinkedIn. You can find our podcast at BehindTheLinePodcast.com, NetNewsNetwork.net, and on Anchor, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and anywhere podcasts can be found. Thank you for your support.